Hi, everyone, and welcome to the next bite-sized episode in our study of wisdom. Over the past couple of weeks, we've looked at seeking God's wisdom and making wise choices. Today, we're going to look at the wisdom of being prepared. The Bible and Jesus talk a lot about wisdom. A few weeks ago, when we were looking at the life of Peter, we briefly looked at a story that Jesus told about the wise and foolish builders. Do you remember? The foolish builders built their house on the sand with no foundations, and when the storms came, their house collapsed. They thought they'd be okay because when they were building the house, the weather was fine. They didn't think about what might happen if the weather changed. But the wise builders built their houses on rock. They thought about the future, and their houses stood firm against the storms. You see, the wise builders were prepared for whatever the weather might throw at them. Another story that Jesus told about being prepared was the story of the 10 bridesmaids. You see, there was this big wedding, and back in the day, the wedding feast couldn't start until the bridegroom arrived. On this one occasion, the bridegroom was quite late. All the guests, including the 10 bridesmaids, waited patiently. Because they didn't know when he was going to arrive, all the bridesmaids took lamps with them. It was a good job because as the evening wore on, it got really dark and they waited a long time. So as they waited, they rested so that they'd have plenty of energy for the party. Eventually, at midnight, when it was really dark, a messenger arrived saying that the bridegroom was on his way. The bridesmaids got up and leapt into action. Because they'd been waiting so long, with their lamps burning, they'd all gone out because they'd run out of oil. 5 of the bridesmaids were wise, however. When they were getting ready for the wedding, they knew that they might be waiting a long time for the bridegroom. So they bought extra oil with them. On hearing that the guest of honor was on his way, they quickly refilled their lamps and lit them, making sure that they were burning brightly. Then they went out to meet the bridegroom with their lamps lighting the way. The other 5 bridesmaids were not so smart. They didn't think that they might need extra oil for their lamps, and when they tried to light them, they wouldn't light because they had no fuel. In a panic, they asked the other bridesmaids to share their oil, but they couldn't because otherwise they wouldn't have enough oil for their own lamps. And they told the foolish bridesmaids to go and buy some oil of their own. So in a panic, they dashed off to get some oil. While they were away, the bridegroom arrived. The 5 wise bridesmaids went into the house with the bridegroom, and the door was shut behind them, and the party began. When the 5 foolish bridesmaids returned, they realized they'd missed the groom's arrival, and the party had already started. They hammered on the door and asked to come in, but they were told they couldn't because they weren't ready when the groom arrived. You see, the bridesmaids didn't know when the groom was coming. They just knew he was coming at some point. Just like we don't know when Jesus is coming back. All we know is that he is coming again. The wise bridesmaids knew that they needed to be ready at all times, so they prepared well and made sure that they didn't miss the party. And we need to do the same. You see, you could think of it like this. The lamp and the oil could represent the Bible and the Holy Spirit. The wise bridesmaids invested in their lamps, looking after them and buying extra oil, and they were ready for the party. And if we invest in the Bible, reading it and seeking God's wisdom from it, being constantly refilled with the Holy Spirit, we too will be ready. But if we neglect the Bible and the Holy Spirit, we too will miss out. Now, I don't want to miss the party. Do you?